Welcome, one and all, to the Little Story Shop, a magic place of stories and toys for girls and boys. Let's go inside now and meet Mr. and Mrs. Little. And here they are, Mr. and Mrs. Little. The children of the town love to come in and listen to their stories and see the toys. Maybe we'll hear a story now.
Do you hear the carolers, Mr. Little? What does that remind you of?
Yes, my dear, I hear the carolers. They remind me of a Christmas some time ago.
Tell us all about it, Mr. Little.
I believe it would be best if Mrs. Little told this story. I seldom talk about myself. Well, not very often anyway.
All right, sir. I'll tell it. There's a lot to learn in this story about Mr. Little, children. So listen. This story takes us back several years ago to another time just before Christmas. And as always, the boys were singing in the street. But things were a little different then. You see, Mr. Little wasn't always the friendly, pleasant gentleman he is today. In fact, he was rough, gruff, and just a little difficult to get along with. Why, he didn't even like the music. In fact, I don't think he liked anyone, which is not a very good way for a toy maker to be.
Why don't they stop that infernal singing?
Well, I frankly didn't know what to do. We were so awfully busy with Christmas so near, and I knew that Mr. Little was afraid he couldn't get all the toys made.
I'd give anything for some good help.
Did you say anything?
At first, we didn't know who on earth said that. We looked all over, and then we saw him. What a strange little fellow he was. Where he came from, who he was, what he wanted, we had no idea. But he certainly was there.
Well, did you say you'd give anything for some good help?
Why, yes, I guess I did say that.
Good. Then I'll go to work for you, and when I'm through, you'll give me anything I want in the store.
Yes, certainly, certainly. But what can you do?
You just watch me. Just watch me.
My, you should have seen that little fellow go to work. Mercy, he worked so fast, why, we could hardly keep up with him. And night and day he worked away, doing this and that and everything. He stopped only for two things, to eat a little bread now and then, and to listen to the carolers. Was listening to the choir, a little girl came up to our window. He could tell that she wanted something inside. We didn't know what the two were so interested in, but they seemed to get along famously, and they became fast friends, for every day she returned when the carolers were there, and every day the elf talked to her. And on we worked. And never before had we made so many toys and had such good business. But wouldn't you know that Mr. Little got worried because everything was going so well. He was worried about what he would have to pay our little elf friend for all his work. After all, he had promised him anything.
Oh, maybe he'll take all our profits.
Well, you can see that Mr. Little was really worried. In those days, he was quite a worrisome person. But everything seemed to go on smoothly. The elf worked harder than ever. And the carolers came every day with their songs. And the little girl came to stare in the window. And finally, Christmas Eve came. And what a day that was. We sold just about everything in the shop. And our tireless little friend had helped us every minute. While we were sitting there, talking about our good fortune, we had a visitor outside our window. We didn't see her, but you can bet our friend, the elf, did. And suddenly...
I want my pay!
Well, you can imagine how this startled Mr. Little. He finally managed to mutter.
Yes, certainly. What would you like?
You said I could have anything in the shop. So I want the big doll in the window.
The doll? Yes, well, yes, of course. The doll. She is yours.
I was just a little surprised, too. And I could hardly believe my eyes as Mr. Little gave him the doll. And the funny little fellow stood there with that big, beautiful toy in his arms.
So, my friends, I've been well paid. Thank you, and Merry Christmas!
We were both speechless, to say the least. And before we knew it, the little elf was gone.
This I cannot believe. He worked so hard, and for only a doll. I do not understand. I must follow him to see what he does with it.
And that's exactly what Mr. Little did. Follow that little man out into the street. And when Mr. Little came inside the church, he saw what the elf was going to do with the doll. He was going to give it to the little girl. And when she saw the beautiful doll, she could hardly believe her eyes. Here was just what she'd always wanted. She couldn't speak, but the elf knew this would be her happiest Christmas. And all at once, Mr. Little was beginning to find out something new about Christmas. Like so many of us, he was terribly busy with the buying and selling, building and wrapping, working and planning for this busy time of year, that he had forgotten about some of the other things of Christmas, like giving and thinking of the happiness of others, and thinking, too, about the real meaning of Christmas. He never found the little elf again, but Mr. Little found Christmas.
Let me sing again.
after that night, he came out of the church with a wonderful feeling of joy and peace. As he walked along the street, he thought of the many things he would do to help make people happy, not only on Christmas, but every day of the year. And when he came home, he couldn't hold it back any longer.
Merry Christmas! Merry Christmas to everyone!
And so you see, that's what Mr. Little thinks about whenever he hears the carolers in the street.
Yes, children, they taught me that there's a great deal more to Christmas than selling toys. And I've never forgotten it. And don't you forget it either.
And that, children, is the story of the elf and Mr. Little.